Oh, I'm sorry. It is the Wednesday, February 11, 2016, 7 p.m. Birch Lake Planning Commission. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have the attendance sheet. Correct? Yes. Consideration of the agenda. Any comments from commission members? No.
Looks
Okay.
good.
Adopted as is. Any conflicts of interest? Hearing none. Minutes from the meeting of November 17, 2025. Comments, any? No? Hearing none, motion to adopt. Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, adopted. Next item, public comment on agenda items. There is also, just for a note, there is a later opportunity for general public comment. So this would be on agenda items only. Do we have comments?
We have a Dick Lorenz. You're up. Welcome.
Mr. Lorenz, welcome.
This comment concerns the master plan. Several of the chapters were included in the agenda tonight. Quick look at them tonight. I got two items for clarification. I don't have it in front of me, but I made some notes, so hopefully. Do you have it in front of you?
Mhm.
We do.
The copy I had, page 59. It deals with public facilities. Chapter 5, paragraph D. The way I read what's in there, it says the use of the Torch Lake Community Center. Promote the use of the Torch Lake Community Center. If in fact that refers to the community center, I'm not aware of that, what that is. If that refers to the community center, that might be at 8831 someday. I think we're pretty premature for that. Might I suggest that refers to the conservation center? I don't know, what's a community center? That's my question. If we're proposing a community center, I think we need more verbiage on what that would be. Anyone find it there yet, paragraph B?
I'm not on the same page. Is it page labeled at the bottom, 59, or?
Yeah, could
My
you,
copy was 59. Chapter 5, public facilities.
So I don't think we're
Okay.
looking at the same thing because
Right.
chapter 5 is transportation. Are we looking at the existing master plan from 2017 or the proposed?
It's in the agenda for tonight.
Okay.
And we can take a look at that chapter, I mean, and see.
Yes,
We'll
we'll review that in the future.
I'll clarify this there after. the
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Second item, the reference is going to be off again, but refers to recreation. Mine was chapter 9. Deals with the trail. If you want, the trail that comes from Acme over to Charlotte that we talked about for a while. Again, I wrote down the quote, it says, the trail should continue along, but separate from the US 31 state highways or county roads. And then it says right of ways.
Oh, this is in the existing.
This is the existing
these
plan.
are
I
the pages of
recognize
the
that.
existing
Yes,
plan That we were looking
okay.
at tonight for the future.
yes.
So this is what's in effect already, the comments you're making,
All right, so that's all past history.
right? But, I mean, you're welcome to make your comment still. You- Go ahead and finish your comment.
The way I read it is, separated from the road is good, but not in the right of way of the county or state highway. I think for the trail to happen, it has to be in the right of way. Build it along public Private property would be impossible to get approval to do that. So the trail needs to be in the right of way, but separate from live spots, so that's all.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
That was all we had.
Any other agenda item? We don't have any more comment cards, so
Oh, that's all right. We'll allow it. Kristen Graves.
this one time.
My name is Kristen Graves, and I just wanted to remind the commission tonight, first of all, I want to thank you for your time and for being here, but to remind you that this is a listening session tonight, and to not provide any feedback or comments on things that you're hearing, and just make sure that you take everything into consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's public comment. Moving on, do we have correspondence to review?
I have nothing.
Very good. Thank you. Unfinished business. I don't think there is any other than the ongoing master plan discussion, which we'll have later. So we can move past that and move on to new business. We have an introduction for restaurant, hotel, live, work units. Sarah, do you want to? We have your report, of course,
Right.
and I've read it.
Yeah, I'll give you just a brief update and then turn it over to the applicant to do a presentation. Our intent tonight is to kind of, like I mentioned on the memo and the agenda, as an introduction. So look at the project, see if you have any questions, any concerns, understand it better, anything you'd like to have for the next meeting. You saw in my report, there's a couple of additional details that would be nice to have on the plans or in other documents before this is approved. But just tonight to kind of hear about this. I know everybody's excited because every time you drive by, it seems like, or people are coming in here asking what's going to happen there, and excited to see something happen at this property. So I don't have anything additional. Does the planning commission have any questions for me to start with? Okay.
Just note, I think this is part of our change process now that with our new ordinance. So we listen first and then
Right. Yep. It's
move
kind
on
of a
to
two-step.
approval. So it's,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah, and so this is a site plan review too. So this is in the commercial district. It's a site plan review. So if it meets all the requirements of the ordinance, then you have to approve it. It's not a special use permit where we have a public hearing and there's more discretion. And the site plan review process does not have a public hearing associated with it. It's done at the public meeting, but we don't do any special noticing for a site plan review in the commercial district.
Very good. And I believe we have the applicant here.
Yes,
If you'd like to proceed.
thank you. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Charles Lockery, and thank you all for being here tonight and letting me present my plan for the longstanding restaurant that started out as Waswagen and then became Riccardi's and Roma's and Peterson's, and now hoping to make it into something new for the community. Just wanted to give you a little bit of background on myself. I have a long history, my family has a long history coming up to Torch Lake, especially the north end. My parents came up here when they were newly married, and I came up here with my sister, spent a lot of time at the north end of Torch, and I went to Camp Pawenta for 2 years. And my parents had friends at the north end, and so I've spent a lot of time. This seems like home to me, like, almost more than downstate where, I was born and raised. So when I was a kid, I used to go to the Riccardi's restaurant and pizza with my family, and I canoed there from the north end, and it was just a lot of fun, and that's my goal, is to create something for the community and really take a building that has a lot of history to it and really resurrect it and bring it back to its former glory and really create something, good for the community. So, and I'm looking at doing something, modest and respectful and something that is, again, where next generations can just, bring their families and have a place to go and enjoy northern Michigan and the north end of Torch Lake and the whole area and try to bring some, revenue back, to the community. So I'm really excited about preserving the building, and when I saw that it was up for sale, I jumped at the opportunity to purchase it because it had a lot of personal history to me, and I know based on people that I know and friends of my parents and friends of mine and just people in the community that it was a very important building, to say the least, and the memories, were very strong there, and people have stopped by and given me pictures and had conversations, and they're very excited to see something happen. So I really wanted to save the building, and it was left in disrepair for many, many years. There were many water leaks and things like that, but it's structurally sound now, and put a new roof on it and made it watertight, and so I'm ready to move into the next phase of developing something now that I feel like I've kind of preserved the building and saved it from being more ruined. And so I'm excited to present this master plan to the community and to the Planning Commission, and to go over my master plan for the site. And that would include the restaurant, resurrecting the restaurant portion in the front half of the building, and on the lake side of the building have 3 units that would be like a boutique hotel, and then eventually build live-work buildings on the rest of the site that we could have artisans. I'd love to make it into an artisan game where we could have jewelry makers or portrait painters or something to that effect on the ground floor of the buildings. And in your packet, you should have just a quick sketch of what the units would look like, where on the first floor, there would be the commercial aspect, and the way they're arranged off the parking lot, it would kind of be like a tiny village of artists where people can either, come to see the art and then go have dinner, or have dinner and then go see the art, but kind of create a stopping point and a mutually beneficial situation, for the community, and give people, something else to do. And then the artists could rent the space up above and live and have a place where they can, make their art and act in the community and sell their wares and just, create something that's fun and enjoyable. So during the whole resurrection of, restoring the building, I've tried to be respectful of the community and kept the grass cut and kept it looking, nice and neat, and, painted the building and tried to, bring something that was an eyesore and, decaying every day, and bring it to, having it look nice. And there's a lot of work, yet to be done, but at least I've begun the process, and I feel like turned it around and ready for the next chapter for the area, and want to create something special for the community. So I'm willing to take questions from the audience or the commission if anybody has any questions that they have for me.
Can you speak a little bit about the phasing that you're talking about, either how many years or what's included in each of the phases?
Well, my focus would be on, there's three distinct areas. One would be the restaurant, one would be the hotel rooms, and then the live work building. So it would probably be starting out with the boutique hotel aspect of that, places that could be, rented and used by visitors or people in the area, tourists, and then in conjunction with that, developing the restaurant so it could either serve breakfast or have lunch meals and some form of dinner. I haven't worked out, every detail as far as the food. And then basically focus on the building proper, getting that up and running, and then as it develops, then move into the live work buildings themselves.
So those are not necessary to make the whole plan work for you. I'm not suggesting they wouldn't be acceptable. I'm just saying that's,
Well, yeah, it's all part of there's a lot of land there, in addition to the restaurant itself. And so my master plan includes creating, kind of a community, kind of an artist colony, which it's multifaceted, where you can stay there, you can eat there, you can shop there, and there could be, other attractions that, that are kind of related to those, as time goes on. But those are the three main areas, and that would be kind of
right.
chronologically.
But you want to start with the hotel, restaurant, the building,
Yeah.
the existing building. And
Yeah, the building's there right now. I would like to continue with the building and finish that before I open up another project.
Okay. And would that require any substantial construction, reconstruction, demolition, or you're
No.
talking about staying with existing?
Everything that you see laid out in the upper corner of the plan.
Yep.
Is in the perimeter of the existing building. So I designed the kitchen area, the restaurant itself, and the 3 units to utilize the building as it stands. So it doesn't add to construction, add to disturbance. Everything is basically happening on the inside of the building
Okay.
for that phase.
And where are you in the planning process of that? Are you construction ready? Are you?
Yeah, I'm ready to, there were some, repairs to floorboards that I did that were, rotted out because the roof leaked and the water was left on and the pipes froze, and so some areas were rotted out, and so I, replaced some floorboards and replaced some floors and made it, safe and structurally sound right now. So it's basically at the stage where the building was stabilized and now construction can commence.
And do you have a time frame for that in mind?
I would like to be open for business in some capacity by June 1st.
Wow. Okay.
I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
What is your intention for the restaurant? Are you a restaurateur? Do you have experience? Is that something you're going to lease?
I thought about leasing it at one time, and I'm still open to, that possibility. But I would probably start out from a slower standpoint as far as a restaurant, and not have and let it develop from there. Basically, I would want to take a slower approach and see if it's, dinner only or lunch only or breakfast only, and then kind of develop it from there, see what,
Is there a liquor license available, or do you have one for this restaurant?
I do not have one. I guess it was, it lapsed with the building, so, I'm not, at this point, I'm not interested in creating a bar or tavern. I'd like to create something that's more organic, holistic, artistic, something like, along those lines. But not saying that I wouldn't do that in the future. I could see moving to maybe beer and wine, having wine tasting on a patio that, overlooks the lake, or have the ability to have, wedding receptions in there or private parties, something like that.
Okay. Are there any other significant approvals that you're aware of you need, environmental permits or road commission? Again, not suggesting there are.
I'm not aware of, for the building itself, because the building is up. For the live work units, there would probably be soil erosion, and some other health department, well and septic needs for those. But for right now, the building is kind of self-contained, so I wanted to get that up and running for the community and then start generating revenue to be.
Right, and to your point, sufficient septic and well is still within code based on the fact that it was a restaurant previously.
Yes. Yeah, I'll have, I'll have that, reevaluated, but it, that was evaluated by the health department when I purchased it.
Right.
And everything is operational right now.
Okay. I think there were a number of items that Sarah's probably spoke about that would be required in your site plan still. Have you given that consideration?
I looked at those briefly. Sarah, could you read those items again? I don't have them.
Sure. So the setback lines, which is an easy add to your plan.
Right.
The height detail on the structures, just to verify that the proposed live work units would meet the ordinance. Dumpster details as far as the screening, and it would just have to be located outside of the setbacks. So once we get those on there, landscaping, a little bit more detail on that to make sure that it meets our foundation, our lot, and our right-of-way requirements for landscaping. So some details on that. Buffering from neighboring residential uses. This is a commercial zone property right in the middle of all residential and going to be a commercial use. So any details you can provide on that, and then the planning commission can have a discussion about, their thoughts on that. And from a planning perspective, I'm looking at, it's all important, but the parking lot for any lights, to the neighboring properties, especially after hours, but also the, any noise that might be generated from that. And then outside agency reviews, which you kind of just mentioned, Jeff, and then exterior lighting details, if any are going to be added there. That's more of a question if there will be lighting. And then shoreland protection strip details. So on the water portion of it, what's existing there, if you're going to be doing any work on that strip for that. So those are my notes that I had in that staff report.
Can I address some of those right now?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. Kind of going in reverse order, there are a few photos of what the shoreline looks like right now. It's all beach, and so you can take a look at that. So there wouldn't be any major further work there. As far as the landscaping and screening, I'm very familiar with that. I'm a landscape architect by trade. So that can be, that's easy. That'll probably, well meet or exceed the township's ordinance for that. The dumpster is outlined on the on the plan there, it is behind it is in the side yard, although it might be, does that have a 10-yard or a 10-foot setback? on the side
Yeah,
yard?
Yes.
Okay, so that might just have to be moved in towards the building a little bit. I'm not planning on having any parking lot lights like a Meijer or Walmart or anything like that. Because it's not gonna, we're not gonna be open until 2 in the morning. It's not gonna be probably ever dark when people are exiting the building, especially in the summertime when it stays light till 10 o'clock or so. There would probably be coach lights on the building itself, just to add ambiance and, lighting for around the doors. There'll be, just indirect, lights coming from the windows, like every other house in the area would have. Did I miss? The setback lines, there are some setback lines on there, but I can add those. The height of the building is pre-existing, that's not going to change, I'm not going to raise anything there. The live-work buildings would be within the height restriction. I don't know that offhand, is that 40 feet?
I'm going to look right now.
And I would think it'd be well below that.
41.
Yeah.
Buffering?
Yeah, the buffering, I'm not sure exactly what's required, but on the plan, I do have some trees. Buffering the parking lot from 31, I have some trees. Buffering some of the live-work buildings to the neighbors to the east. So there is some basic landscape on the plan, but I could submit a separate landscape plan, meeting the code for foundation planting, parking lot, trees. My concept is to make it a great space where you can go, and when you're there, you enjoy it, and there's beautiful trees and not just the typical trees, interesting trees, and create nice spaces and nice buffering. So again, it's I know it's a commercial property, as Sarah said, surrounded by residences, but I want to harmonize with the area and not conflict.
Okay. Have you thought about operating hours? I mean, you mentioned probably nobody there after dark.
Probably at this point, and even if we do beer and wine, I would think that, like some of the other restaurants that they close in the area, 9, 10 o'clock, something like that. Maybe 11 on Friday, Saturdays. But if it's just, if there's not alcohol involved, probably sooner than that.
And is your thought to operate year round?
At this point, I'm not sure. But, primarily, say Memorial Day through Thanksgiving, initially, and then just see what develops from there.
Have you talked to the neighbors?
Yeah, they're, my immediate neighbors, yes.
If you haven't, I'd recommend it. People show up here angry.
Well, they know that their, places are adjacent to a commercial.
Understood.
So, and I've kind of, the things I've talked to tonight, I've talked, in the past briefly to them. I haven't done a separate presentation of the.
Yes, right.
But we've talked about, beer and wine and hors d'oeuvres and charcuterie, whatever, sort of uses.
With the live work units, are you intending to own those and rent them or sell them, create a
No.
condo?
Yeah, I would, maintain possession of those. And, that way, almost like like an art fair would have, like a jury selection for artists, I would, I would interview the artists and see what they're producing. And, that way, have a nice mix of artisans and, have everything that would, relate to the common goal problem.
Sarah, my understanding is based on the zoning, assuming that live work houses meet all of the setbacks and elevations, et cetera, they would be permitted as a right.
I didn't look at it in that way. I looked at it
Or
as.
is it a density, is it too much density?
I'll have to double check that part of it because I hadn't, in my mind, it was always commercial because it's got the commercial on the first floor versus the residential component. And in this district, because it's the commercial district, we don't allow like single family dwellings. So the original plan on the parcel A, on the water parcel, there was a single family dwelling kind of as a caretaker's home or whatever. And I had mentioned that we don't allow that. So that got converted to a live work. And so let me look at the ordinance specific about the live work. What I would say is that the commercial uses that are on the first floor would have to comply with a commercial use that's allowed in our commercial district for that. So I think that in the approval process, we want to specify that, or if it's limited, if the applicant wants to limit it to certain uses, that would all be a part of the approval package. But,
Right.
I need to look at those more.
And as you're probably aware, we have restrictions on short-term rentals in the township. So again, not sure what your operating plan for those is.
Applies for commercial property.
Well, if you have people living there, that would apply.
Yeah,
So-
it does. So we only allow short-term rentals in the village district.
But I don't think it'd be, can you define short-term, that's less than a month?
Right.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah, so anybody that would rent one of these units would be there for a minimum of a year, or at least a minimum of 9 months.
I was just noting it just so we don't have, yeah,
Exactly.
that would be an additional
Another
request.
idea that I had for one of the live work units, especially the one on the south end, could be, they could rent electric scooters or bikes out of that unit, perhaps, for the trail that is eventually going to go along 31 there. And I believe it's going to be on the east side of 31, unless they.
On the east side, yes.
So it would be, that would be something that would be symbiotic to the trail and, whoever wanted to run that sort of business.
Mhm.
Could be me.
Sarah, can I ask you for clarification? As far as the site plan goes, it's commercial district. And if we were to approve the site plan when the time comes, does that mean that there can be no deviation over time from the site plan that we approve? Meaning if the live places were to move or to be a different size, if one of them was going to be larger than another. I know when we went through this in the past developments here in the township, the planning commission looked at the full building drawings before something was built. And right now, these are great for a concept, but they're not a building drawing that the community can look at prior to this commission reaching an approval. So
They weren't intended for that, they were just to get an idea.
right, but before we could get to that point, we would need all of that, correct?
Yeah, and that's if you'd like to see some sort of a floor plan that would go along with it and that the.
Well, I'm just thinking if we were to approve it and it was going to stay in, perpetuity forever, and I feel like the community should get a chance to see it in its entirety, more than just this sort of sketch of what is proposed for siding, roofing, those types of things, because if we're going to approve something, then, and it doesn't get built for 4 or 5 years down the road, could even be by a different owner.
Right.
I just feel like we need to establish the full concept of what we would be approving if we were.
Yeah, and I will look into that too. So based on Jeff's comments about the live work and how those are approved, and so if those details should come here. Some of my concern with them is that a site plan's good for a year, so if that construction or those permits aren't pulled, then it might end up back here again if we have to approve them at the planning commission level for those live work. So it's great as a concept and overall master plan, but then getting to building permits, if we're gonna be able to get there, or if there's a good mechanism to make that happen. So I need to look into that a little bit based on the phasing information we have, and then if it's planning commission approval, having the additional details on those buildings or kind of a spec of what that looks like. The ordinance does have there's 3 different levels of modification, so insignificant, minor, and major amendments. So a couple of the items would likely fall into minor amendments, but if you're moving the buildings on the site kind of more than 4 or 5 feet each way, if you're making them bigger, things like that, if the planning commission is responsible for approving them this first time around, they'd end up coming back here for review by the planning commission again. But yeah, I mean, this is the plan, this is like the contract, the agreement, this is how it's supposed to be built. So if you get anything that's too large, or that would need to be changed, it'd be come back here.
And the reason I initially started out with just presenting the building and what I wanted to do with the building, and I thought, well, it would make more sense, since I'm meeting with the planning commission, to give you an idea of what my overall vision would be for the entire parcel, so you'd have an idea of the master plan. So that would help you, connect the dots and see the big picture. So I think it's good for everybody.
Because is that an option for us when the time comes to approve the main building idea and not the rest?
Yeah, I mean, it would be, if you wanted to, especially because of the phasing, if we had additional detail on the site plan that talked about the phase, so then you could say we're approving phase 1 because phase 2 is too far out for us to do it. So it's a future phase you'd have to come back and get approval for if it's over that
Right.
year or 2 years.
As you noted, it's a year, or it can be extended,
Right.
but if
Yeah,
you're not
so
ready to go within that next year, maybe come back to
Yeah.
that later.
let me take a look at that, the permitting part of the live work.
But I
and-
could be ready to go, this year or later this year, once I get, could be, late summer, early fall. So to your point, if everything was approved, as it's laid out, then I think that everything should be approved at one time. If I wanted to make one of the units bigger or smaller, something like that, then yes, that onus would be on me to come back and get reapproval but if it should go both ways, if I'm gonna be locked into that size, then.
Right. I just want to make sure that, if you're trying to give him a list of what we need to approve the site plan, then I'm thinking, well, we've got to see what these things look like with more detail than just what's on here.
Well,
For sure, yeah.
I would, yes, I would expect to give you that, just like the amount of detail that I have in the main building. I would take one of the units, because all the units would be the same. I would show you the elevations, at least 3 sides, because some of them are, 3 sides elevation, floor plan of the bottom floor plan of the upper floor, details, sizes, heights, things like that. So you have sufficient information to approve.
Yeah, I think all of that is necessary. And so any other, a few thoughts here at the end.
Can you talk about the shoreline and what your plan is for that? Because you have this dock and this platform out there. What your intent is for that use? I guess from a township perspective, Lot A is allowed to use that water frontage, is allowed to use that dock. It's not something that would be extended throughout the whole property or available. You know, you mentioned about canoeing down there to come to the restaurant. Is that a part of your vision that you're looking for with that access?
Well, if one of the neighbors wants to canoe or, you know, come by boat to the restaurant, then there is a dock there that they could pull up to, or they could drop anchor and wade in and grab a pizza or grab a sandwich, something like that. So that's why I also included the dock as part of the master plan.
But since it's two separate parcels, can you do that?
Well, that was a part of working. Today I was thinking about this with the dock, and I don't know. I don't know though that if you connected it and you made it one parcel, that you still would be able to, because then you still get into keyholing and access and things like that. And so I need to read through the ordinance again related to dockage and frontage, because I had some questions and wondered what the intended use for that was, to see how it fits in the ordinance or if it does fit in there.
Well, people neighbors have come up to me and said, "Oh, can we come by boat? Can we, are you going to have gas?" And I said, "Oh, "I don't think I'm going to have gas. We love gas. There's no gas at the north end. We'd love, access to, a restaurant by water. I'm not necessarily promoting that, but, if somebody canoes, over or brings a boat and drops anchor, wants to come in and get a pizza, I didn't see any harm in that, but."
We'll have to look at that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think you need to check the ordinance on that as well.
And again, I'm just trying to do something for the community. And it seems like the community, everybody that I talk to is asking me about that. So,
Okay, well, if there's anything else, I think there's some more information we need. We would like to see the construction plans, if you will. What's the outside going to look like? What's the landscaping going to look like? What's the presentation going to be? I have the feeling the live work units, I like the master plan idea of it. Those just feel like one step further, and we have to get community support for that as well. And I think people understanding what that is, what they're going to look like, what the purpose is. It's not going to be an Airbnb kind of thing. That would be valuable in terms of approval and community support.
well, I would like to have, a little bit more reassurance from the planning commission before my architect, I spend thousands of dollars designing these buildings, and you're like, "Oh, it looks nice, but yeah, we're not going to." So, I'm happy to provide whatever is necessary, but, I also want to, I think you understand what I'm saying too. It's a big investment for, putting the drawings together, so.
Right. Well, I think as we mentioned at the outset, that the basic plan for the existing building is an approved and allowed use in that zoning district. Obviously, within the ordinance, we have rules on types of materials and, again, landscaping, et cetera, that you have to follow. Not, as you know, not big on, 100-foot neon signs, but other than that, as long as it's consistent,
So it's like 99.
yeah, sorry to be.
Yeah, any of those landscape plan I can do myself. I know that all that criteria will be met. But maybe we could get some feedback from Sarah prior to, again, I'm happy to provide, detailed drawings of the live work. But if there's questions that the commission has. Perhaps we should answer those prior, or I just think that would make sense, or if you're saying you won't even look at it until.
Well, I'm still a little unsure on your timing. I mean, it sounds like you want to have the main building set to go pretty quickly. And these live workspaces are a little more out in the future a bit, and still kind of solidifying that idea.
Well, possibly, but
So,
like I said, they could start in August. So I guess I don't want to create a delay or table it for years from now. I'm kind of focusing on the master plan and want to, I've presented my master plan, to you, and I would like, consideration on what's needed to approve that.
right. And I think we raised a number of questions about that, the additional units and whether they fit within the ordinance or how they fit within the ordinance. And then just a lot of questions about what's it going to look like, how's it going to function, right?
Right, and I think that as a board, I truly do understand where you're coming from right now,
Yeah.
because this is not cheap to go forward. But typically, we get something when Sarah deems that the application is complete and everything else, and I applaud you for coming early to see what other additional things that you might need, but just please understand, we can't make a decision tonight one way or another. We're here to,
No, and I'm not,
we're here
Yeah.
to listen, and Sarah's gonna do her due diligence, and I'm sure communicate with you so that hopefully the next time you come back for, looking for approval, then the public's had a chance to see the finished product. We can all see what they're seeing, and then, we can discuss it at that time and make our decision.
right. I wasn't asking you to give me blanket approval based on a couple sketches, but what I'm hearing is there's some questions or some concerns over density or, questions that were brought up tonight. And I don't know if those questions require what the building would look like or details of the floor plan or where a staircase might be. So I'm saying perhaps we should explore, investigate those prior to, the final product being presented. But I'm happy to do that if that's what you want.
Well, I can take a look in the ordinance specific to those, and then I can let you know what I find or give you some feedback, and you can decide how you want to move forward. Kind of what I'm hearing from you is that you want to get this whole project as site planned approved, so you don't have to come back again in this next year to do that, or if there's an extension involved, 2 years. But so we can have that conversation once I look through if there's additional details or density issues, and then you can decide if you want to move forward with doing those plans. I'm not hearing anything from the planning commission that says, if you do this, we're not going to approve it, or if you do this, we are going to approve it. I think that there's just some more information that they're kind of interested in before they can put their final stamp on it. At least that's my takeaway from the planning.
I'll speak for myself, but I agree with that. And I feel a lot more questions around the live workspaces that I don't understand the details of enough to really.
And I would say I understand the intent. I just think that it would be wrong of us to try to approve a full site plan based on what we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And as you understand, it has to be,
I'm not asking you to do
yeah.
that, but I just heard some questions or some concerns from you addressing to Sarah about, density and other issues like that. And I think that those should be addressed or satisfied.
Right. And just to be clear, that's your job to provide those details to satisfy the requirements. So we're asking questions to help us understand where the soft parts of this are.
So the floor plans are going to satisfy the density issue?
That's a question how the ordinance addresses the density in that district and what those are considered.
Right.
I
So
don't know how
there's
to.
two separate issues that play here. One is details, which I'm more than happy to provide you so you can make the final decision. The other is ordinance related regarding density, and we've already satisfied lighting and heights of buildings and things like that. So if there's an issue with live work or the amount of those, then maybe that should be.
I asked the question because I wouldn't want you to come back here and ask for approval for something that's clearly not permitted under the ordinance. So
Correct.
we don't have that answer
Right.
right now,
Right.
but I'm sure you'll figure that out
Yeah,
as
that
you,
would make
as you develop the plan more. Again, speaking for myself, I think the existing building and changes to that are an easier, you're pretty close there.
Right.
I won't speak for anyone else here, but the others feel a little more, it's a little cloudier. So I don't know. I wouldn't want you to slow down one project for the other, I guess is what.
And Sarah, if it were a matter of timing, would he be allowed to, say, come back in a month for the site plan of the building that is there currently? If he needed more time to satisfy live work structures and things like that on the parcel, he could come back in a month
Right.
for a site plan review of the main building, check those boxes, get his approval so that he could be on path for a June 1st-ish opening and continue to work on whatever would be necessary
Yeah.
for the rest.
Yeah, if needed, if additional time was needed, if a portion could move forward quicker than the rest of it, or if you had concern, you got more information and you still have concerns and, need more details type of thing, that'd be up to him, but we could approve it kind of in that, almost a phased approach for the approval as well, based on the information, as long as everybody's clear on what's being approved. So,
Right, and that's what I would strive for. I try to get, on board or on the agenda for January to keep things moving along, because there's permits and everything. So I don't want anything to slow me down, but I realize that you have to be presented with the proper information, but if we could, if it means separating those two issues, right now to meet the June.
And I think those are all questions that you can ask Sarah after tonight, and she can guide you on, what's the best avenue, given what she finds out for density and all those types of things. And then you can make an informed decision of how you want to come back.
Right, well, I can have a landscape plan, I can have all of her criteria met, within days. And I could have the layouts of the building within a week or two. So I would be receptive to coming back. But if the live work is gonna be a slower process for approval, then I would like to focus on the building itself. But I can provide, I would love to come back next month and get at least approval on the building itself, even if there's some more questions on the live work units, because those would not be under the same sort of deadline.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
so I'll take a look and I can get a hold of you and we'll work towards the next meeting.
Right, consistent with the ordinance plan. So then we'd be able to see the drawings of the building.
And then the next meeting would be a public hearing as well on this, Sarah?
There's no
Well,
public
Public hearing, it's an
Yeah,
approval.
not on this one.
As long as it meets all the statutory.
So Sarah, would we be able to meet next month on this, if I can get you drawings within 2 weeks?
Yeah, we should be able to. I mean, we have a March meeting scheduled for that. So I'll do my research on the live work and I'll let you know about that. And kind of the basic information to keep the restaurant portion moving forward, and we can plug in the live work as it makes sense.
Right, yeah, I'll answer all your questions on the
Yep.
restaurant portion itself, so you'll have those within a week.
Yeah, perfect.
And then,
Yeah, that sounds good. That'll give me time to review it and let you know if there's anything additional and
right,
for the packet. So did the planning commission have any additional questions or concerns before he takes off from tonight?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
It's not.
so
perfect.
the goal will be to meet next month.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you all.
Okay.
Thanks for your feedback.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right. Next item is going back to master plan review. And And we have the chapters to date, and then I think you provided us with the current very extensive actions.
Right. Yeah, and so I wanted to, we've had a couple of months where we haven't really, we haven't either met or worked on business, so kind of to get you back into it. This is the same draft of all the chapters, so to refresh everybody's mind, the planning commission was given draft chapters. We went through them, made some edits, and now it's laid out in the format of the full document for the chapter you've already reviewed. So you've seen this information once already in the laid out portion. We have a couple of chapters remaining. That's the action plan and the future land use. And so that's kind of where we're going to pick up here. And I did provide, like you mentioned, from the current master plan, what your action list and your future land use map looks like. I think that the planning commission, or at least my experience has been the planning commission hasn't necessarily found this action list or implementation to be helpful in making decisions in the future land use map and that. So I put it in here to refresh your mind on maybe some items that you find to be difficult or that you'd like to change, but then also looking at ways kind of to move forward with it. Usually we start with kind of the existing future land use map and have some conversations about if you think that's working, if we need to make some changes for that. And then kind of look, the action plan that I like to put in are, and I mentioned this, 4 to 7 tasks that you're going to be able to complete as a planning commission in the next 5 years. So we can have these policy items such as, support the road commission and something they're doing, or the TART trail or something, but what is the planning commission? What is your task, or what are you going to do? If you only come up with 3 projects you want to work on over the next 5 years, that is sufficient for you. You know how long everything takes to move through and conversations that we have. So if we can focus on a few really good items, that's just as important as having a whole list of things and being to check them off. I just want to give you a document that will be something that's usable for you and not something that you look at and you're overwhelmed with, or you don't know what you're supposed to do next when you're using it and trying to apply it.
I can say I was overwhelmed by the list of actions. I'd seen that before, but I read through it 3 times last week, and I still can't get my head around it.
Yeah, is there any kind of initial comments? I mean, other than Jeff's comment about what's in the existing master plan that either you like or don't like, or some considerations that we should have?
I did note in there a number of times there is suggestion of pursuing light industrial. I was a little, I don't know, a little surprised, I guess. What are thoughts on that? Does anyone? It stuck out to me because it was inconsistent with everything else. We're talking about dark skies and rural character, and let's do some light industrial. My thought is we'd move more toward the rural, supporting the farms, supporting the natural environment rather than.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I would agree. I don't hear much support in the
Right,
community
right.
for things like that.
Yeah, and I was gonna look in here, so in our commercial district that we have, in our current zoning ordinance in the commercial district, and some items that might end up in an industrial district, for instance, are like automobile repair for boats, RVs, automobiles, contractors, establishments, a lumber yard. We do have manufacturing for food, like commercial bakeries are in our commercial district. And then we allow like support laboratories as well. And then I'm gonna look in the village really quick. And so, I mean, when I'm, yeah, and it's similar, those would be, I don't know that you need a separate district to put those uses. I mean, we already have them in the commercial district. And so when I'm thinking of industrial uses that you might either be missing or want to include, nothing's really coming to mind, I guess, that you wouldn't put in your commercial district. But if there was something that was a little bit more intensive that you'd want to isolate in an area, we could definitely have that conversation.
Yes, yeah. I was thinking more of an action to pursue that. It just seems inconsistent with the rest of the,
Yeah,
where we're headed with the plan.
yeah.
So my opinion, the commercial districts are underutilized in terms of commercial businesses. Meaning I wouldn't see a need that you would want to expand them. There's a lot of residential in both commercial districts. I think that would be, in terms of changing the map, expanding those doesn't seem necessary at this point in my mind, but
Kind of focusing in though, I mean, I think a lot of the conversation we had in the zoning ordinance a couple of years ago was focusing in on the villages and trying to, encourage the commercial growth there while also retaining the village and making those kind of more the center of the community versus expanding commercial outside of those areas. And that seems consistent with that.
and then the various housing districts. And obviously the farm and agricultural is sort of is what it is, I think, right? No one's clamoring to expand into those areas. So my conclusion being, I don't know that there are major changes on the map. I suppose we could go parcel by parcel, but
Yeah, and I
you wanna see a
think
different.
your map kind of aligns with your zoning ordinance already, your zoning map.
If there's ever gonna be a question raised, it would be of a bordering property, in my experience.
Right. And my point was, I think we're underutilized in those areas already, right? That would already be able to use commercial space, and a lot of them have been turned into houses.
Right. The one thing that we will always have is, things like that, for the villages, what's Hamlet? You wanna keep that. Well, just in tonight's presentation, yeah, it's not in the village, but are we supposed to maintain the Hamlet feel on that commercial property?
Keeping it consistent with.
And that was kind of where I was going with,
Aesthetic,
needing
yeah.
things more than a sketch.
Right.
If we're gonna be held to the master plan of the community saying, we want this for a look, well, we need to see the look, in my opinion.
Agreed. Yes. And I think the community is interested in that too, right? They want
Right.
everything to be consistent or aesthetically similar.
As far as the map goes, I don't see anything personally with the map.
Well, then I can work on digitizing the existing future land use into current color schemes and items that we would put into the existing plan. We will want to, and we can do this at a separate meeting, but once I get that map, we'll want to have a discussion about what each of these districts kind of mean to you as far as lot size and density conversations. Your current ordinance doesn't really talk about what agriculture means, what's the density, what's the lot size in that on the future land use side of it. And that goes to, we have to tie directly our zoning ordinance, our zoning districts to our future land use map. And so we're going to need to have that conversation to see if we have all the districts we need to have on our zoning map in the future. So that'll be a future discussion, but something to kind of think about when you're looking at the future land use map. I think we have a lot of similar ideas based on what the current landscape looks like, but we should validate that and have that conversation about if it looks how we want it to look and if our density is correct as it currently exists.
That's an interesting point about the agricultural. What is that?
Right.
What does that mean and what's the?
Because that's an ever-changing landscape.
Mhm.
And I know neighboring townships are running into that right now with workforce housing and things like that. How does that apply in an agricultural zone?
And maybe that's one, I mean, that may be a perfect example of an action item too, you know, how, look, I'm at a loss of words, but, you know, not even consider, but investigate newer or different or changing agricultural uses. And not to say that they're right, you know, they're right or wrong. We're just going to look into them, decide then at that time, but at the future, at the action plan for the master plan is we want to look at this further.
Well, in here, I don't remember on what line you have it, but it does say in there for the township to explore other avenues for lower income type housing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's probably our job at this point to say, these are the districts where we would allow it and what would it look like? Because there's only, you know, the lakefront is already built up.
Right.
And the workforce is what it is up here at this point. And if it's going to evolve, where would we like that to evolve at? And what would we want that to look like? And I don't know that we specifically address that.
The high density housing or.
Yeah, higher density workforce housing, whatever you would want to call it. Where would it go? What would it look like? Just at least a description of some kind that people could look towards, because I do know that was some of the survey results in the master plan.
Yeah.
And I just feel like now's the time for us to address. So there would be some future guidance.
Yeah. Sounds like we have a couple action items already.
Yeah.
Some of these items in here are more from the prior plan are somewhat aspirational, but you know, kind of the what was it, goals or yeah. Sorry, policy statements and general goals and things would apply, but then we could be more specific with looking at housing, looking at agriculture, furthering the recreation. Hopefully we'll have a recreation plan soon, but continuing to build that out. Those are general thoughts on goals, actions, directions. Sarah, would you suggest we just do that as a work session
Yeah.
at some point?
Yeah. I can bring back to you for the next meeting, the future land use map, and we can have some of that discussion about those districts. Kind of confirm that we like the map as it exists, and it'll be a little bit larger because I'll be able to print it differently, and it'll be digital, you know, now that we'll be able to manipulate easier for that. And then, you know, I might take a stab at some of the general kind of policies or objectives that we may have, and then kind of look at some tasks maybe. And I'm just going to throw them out there, and they may, you know, some of them you'll say, Sarah, no, you know, that's too much. But, you know, my job is to do the easy ones, but also make you think about some of the other items too. So you know, when you're reviewing it, just with that lens, and it may prompt another idea that comes out of that. So I'll take a stab maybe at some of those items too, and then you can narrow me in on what makes sense and what we can move forward on.
And if we have thoughts either based on this or other things, we could email
Yeah.
them to you and.
Right. Yeah, if you
And
have
open for
anything as you kind of
discussion,
think
yeah.
about it more and read it again, and absolutely. And it won't be, you know, we'll look at it at the March meeting. That won't be the last time you'll see it either again. So, you know, it'll probably be another couple of meetings before we get anywhere that's going to be into the final document, kind of more in a final form, and then seeking some public input on it.
Not seeking to make work, but are the demographic, is 2023 the latest demographic information available?
You know, I need to look at it again because the last time I was looking for demographic information was during the shutdown, and that the census website didn't work. And so I haven't gone back to it. I know that's been over for a little while now, but I can double check that
Yeah,
information.
okay. Just as we have a few more months here, we'll be
Yeah.
deep into 26 before we really start
Yep.
doing that. It's just,
A lot of the things that were, mentioned in there were about engaging new community members or pulling in new members. And it would be interesting to see what we could do to get existing community members engaged.
You mean like a community involvement goal?
Yeah, that'd be really cool, I think.
Well, and since I've been on the planning commission, which was, how many years ago now, there has been talk about developing the hamlets. And I think that could be an action plan too, that we would help facilitate people that live in the hamlet to self-define, what they want it to be, what they want it to look like you're saying. I think an obvious action plan would be the property that's acquired and what's that going to become on the corner of M88 and 31. So I would like to see those.
Yeah, because I don't think we have a definition in our zoning ordinance for hamlet. So, it's mentioned countless times,
yes.
but people sitting up here trying to make decisions, we don't know what hamlet is and whether
We
or
say it a
not,
lot, but
whether or not a plan in front of us, truly is a representation of what the community wants for a hamlet.
Mhm. Yeah, the community involvement, I mean, we've talked about that, and I think we made a recommendation for budget line item to do like the survey. That was pretty useful on a more regular basis, and just to
Yeah.
have community events. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the master plan review will give us an opportunity again, probably late this summer, but try to make that more of an annual listening session, and we could pick different topics, maybe, what is a hamlet?
That'd be wild. That would be fun.
Yeah. Make sure that one's outdoors. All right, is that good direction, everybody?
Yeah, for tonight, just get started and, get back into it. And that gives me enough to get started, bring something back, continue to work, move it forward for you.
Okay, I know I have some thoughts. It's just a matter of time to get it to you.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yep. Yeah, I would welcome any thoughts. And then as you read through the draft that's been laid out, if there's anything else you see in there or something that doesn't make sense, we can work through those too. So.
All right. Implementation. We need to have, thinking way out into the future, we're going to have a public hearing.
Yeah. So the process that's left over, that's required by law for the master plan, is the planning commission finalizes the draft. You recommend that the board authorize for distribution the plan. The township board then does, their review and authorizes for distribution. It goes out for a 63-day review period. That's public review. We send notice to all the neighboring jurisdictions. At the end of the 63 days, the planning commission holds a public hearing and then would make a decision on, if you need to make edits, any changes before going through the final adoption of the plan. I know there's been discussion too with the planning commission and kind of timing wise. there's some opportunity during the summer or on the shoulders from the summer, having some community engagement opportunities, looking specifically at kind of the future land use and the action items and getting some feedback on that from the public based on timing. So we can do that. I've done it. I kind of like doing it during the 63-day period.
I was just going to ask, is that, yeah.
Yeah. If you're comfortable with everything that you've generated before, the 63-day is nice because it allows us to inform everybody that it's out and it's out for public review, get the comments back in. It's a little bit more finalized of a document to have that review, but it's not too far, you know.
We still have an opportunity to make adjustments.
Oh, yeah. Make changes or do what you need to do before it gets through the adoption process. If there's an item as we go through the implementation and the action plan, that you feel like we need more input on before we get to 63-day, we can also do something before that. It'll just see kind of how that shakes out. But we'll be talking about them at public meetings, so the public's always invited to come to our meetings or provide written comment to myself that I can pass along to the planning commission about the draft plan.
And so long as the changes are consistent with the overall plan, even if it's after the 63-day review, we can still we don't have to go back through another
Correct.
public. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So you can go through that process. If we may go through and even hold the public hearing and, you know, still make changes and, you know, work through that, similar to like when we do a special use permit or things like that. You know, you receive information, you go back, you make some edits or make some changes before you do that final. And we could always have more public hearings. If you get to a spot and you said we need to publish it again, you know, you can. You're required to have one. So as we go through, it may change a little bit depending on.
So thinking backwards, that would mean that we'd probably want to be approving something to go to public comment by about August.
Yeah, I mean, I think that ideally I'd like to do it before then.
Right.
But
Latest is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
can plan your community event somewhere in that, again,
Right.
late August, early September, like we did last
Yeah.
year for the.
we could do it that. The public hearing then would end up kind of November, December time. You'd have public that would leave, but it could be presented in written public comment that we receive for the public hearing instead of in person. It's the same. It doesn't have any more weight, right? If it's in person versus in a letter. If you want to try to schedule the public hearing before we get too far into that, then we might need to work back a little bit further to do that. If you're looking at when we could shoot for maybe the end of September, beginning of October for public hearing. So if I work back, puts
Now
us
we're
more
in
like
June,
May or
July.
June.
Yeah.
Or, yeah. So
June, yeah.
I'll look at the calendar. So next month too, I'll come back. I'll look at a calendar and put some dates together, and so we can shoot for something as we're working on the draft too for that.
Yeah. I'm just conscious that's 4 meetings away.
Right.
So got to stick with it. All right. Anything else you need from us at the moment?
No, I'm okay.
Any other comments, thoughts, input? Nope. With that, we will close out new business and move to ongoing reports. Sarah, I feel like you've told us most everything you do.
Yes. I don't have anything additional right now. Are there any questions from the planning commission?
Where are we generally with permits, and is it consistent with?
Let me pull it up real quick. So far this year, we've issued 4 permits. We've gotten 6 in. And last year,
Still a little quiet. Huh?
yeah, last year we had 3 by this time.
Okay.
Last year, it's been, a little bit quieter. So once the snow hits the ground, everything kind of slows down, but we're getting applications, like we got this application in front of you. We have a ZBA meeting next week for an application I just got in the mail today. Today I got another ZBA application, so that'll be for March. So some of those people looking to get started once the snow breaks. So a couple of those coming through.
Okay. Very good. The ZBA report, you already mentioned, we have in 2 weeks an approval for wetland, to build over a wetland, basically. So we'll see how that goes. And that's all. There haven't been any meetings in quite a while. Torch Lake Commission, we don't have representative here, but I think we can read the minutes. Which takes us to public comment. Is there any additional public comment on? Okay. Hearing none. Concerns of the commission. I think we all like to see something happening with this building. I guess I feel like we just need a lot more information, right? Need to be ready to go. So,
We
anything
just
else?
don't want the pitchforks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the community needs that too. I mean, they want to see what's going to
Right.
happen, right? Okay, anybody else have concerns, issues?
Nope.
All right, motion for adjournment,
I'll make that motion.
second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at 8:20,
8:22?
8:22. Clock is on, I'm sorry.
Yes, all right.